she was able to phone one of the attorneys we know with the National Lawyers Guild. And when she did that, she saw that there were many phone calls that the FBI wouldn't allow us to pick up from many of our friends and the people that we work closely with, that there were many messages on the phone, and it became apparent to us that we were not alone, that in fact, that these raids, these search warrants were taking place all over our city, and we later understood also in Chicago. So there was a total of 7 search warrants were executed on September 24th. 5 in Minneapolis, including the offices of the Anti-War Committee, and 4 homes, or 5, and 2 in Chicago. And in addition, a total of 14 people received subpoenas to appear before the grand jury that said that they were investigating material support for foreign terrorist organizations. The other thing that we found on September 24th was an incredible solidarity, the same kind of solidarity that we're seeing today. By 9 a.m., there were 20 people on the front lawn of my home. People I've known for many years, people I've just met recently who are also active in the movements for peace and justice in the Twin Cities. And they came not just to my home, but the homes of everyone who had been raided, and to provide support and provide support and solidarity. And solidarity really is what our movement is about. It is about making connections between ourselves and other people, whether people here in the U.S. or in our hometowns, or people like ourselves in other countries. And that was really brought home to me on that day. And I misspoke before. I believe that in all 9 homes and offices were raided on September 24th, and 14 people received grand jury subpoenas over the course of the days. Now, all 14 people who received to the grand jury declined to appear by asserting our Fifth Amendment rights. So that's because the court doesn't recognize the First Amendment as a reason to decline to appear. We exercised our First Amendment right, but we did so in order to assert our First Amendment. We exercised our Fifth Amendment right, but we did so in order to assert our First Amendment right to freedom of speech and thought and association. And we pleaded the Fifth, and at this point, none of us have been called back, granted immunity and called back to a grand jury in a situation where you were either forced to testify, or to go to jail. And thus far, people haven't been put in that situation, though we expect that to happen. But that hasn't been the end of it. Since 9/24, the FBI has continued a campaign of harassment, visiting people at their homes. They visited Costa at his home, harassing people at their workplaces, trying to smear the people who are subpoenaed and intimidate even those activists who are working on the campaign. On January 25th in Memphis, the FBI surrounded a church where 15 activists had gathered to do Freedom of Information Act requests. It was surrounded by 8 FBI agents who said that they were protecting the protest. People didn't feel very protected, just in case you were wondering. And just last week, an activist who's been active in the Committee to Stop FBI Repression in Michigan got phoned by the FBI asking, did you want to talk to them about the people who were subpoenaed? But the shape of this attack became most clear in the weeks leading up to December 6th, when 9 more activists were subpoenaed, and that it became clear that the focus was not just on the anti-war movement broadly, but as an attack on people who do Palestine solidarity work and the Palestine solidarity movement. It's a continuation, really, of the attacks on Palestinians and Arab Americans here that have been going on for more than a decade. This kind of attack has been felt very, very acutely and intensely by Arabs and Muslims, and especially Palestinians, for many years. The government is trying to raise a specter of the enemy within to control and criminalize dissent and solidarity in defense of a foreign policy that has caused the deaths of tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and Afghans. Those folks who were subpoenaed on December 6th had an appearance date on January 25th, and they also said that they would not testify before the grand jury, that they would not break the trust and solidarity that exists within our movement, that has to exist within our movements. So I wanted to talk a little bit about who we are. Who are the people who are being subpoenaed? There are 23 of us, ranging in age from the early 20s to their 70s. Many of us are union members and union activists. All of us do work in anti-war and international solidarity work. Many of us work together on protests against the Republican National Convention in the Twin Cities in 2008. That's when this movement started. Many of us, many have taken trips to other countries in order to understand the situation that people are living in, whether it be Colombia or Palestine or elsewhere. 7 are Palestinian Americans, 1 is Asian, several are immigrants, 1 is a great-grandmother, 12 of the 23 of us are parents, 7 of the parents have children under the age of 6, and 3 couples, three couples are in a situation where both parents have been subpoenaed. And some of us are members of Freedom Road Socialist Organization, and in a manner that's very reminiscent of the McCarthy era, the prosecutors seem to be targeting Freedom Road membership. Freedom Road was named in search warrants, and it's become clear that in some conversations with our attorneys that is they are targeting some of the people because they happen to be members. As someone who is, I'll tell you a little bit about Freedom Road's place in all of this. First of all, if we're active in your city, I hope you've met us. I hope you know who we are. We're certainly not a clandestine group, and we often have public events and talk about what we think. Our views are easily found on the website, www.frso.org. And as it says here, Freedom Road Socialist Organization is a revolutionary socialist and Marxist-Leninist organization. Our members are very active in movements fighting for justice, particularly in labor, oppressed nationality movements, anti-war, and anti-imperialist and student movements. Freedom Road is characterized by our understanding of national aggression in the United States, and we were founded in 1985 with the merger of 3 groups that came out of the New Communist movement of the 1970s. The government hopes to make the case that Freedom Road is somehow separate and apart from the movement, and that because of our views on the problems of this country, we're somehow not fit to be part of the anti-war movement. As a fact, we're very committed to building the anti-war movement, and I'm very proud of our contributions in this area. We've already seen this where the FBI came to a friend's workplace and said that somehow that Freedom Road had infiltrated the anti-war movement. Now, the FBI has infiltrated the anti-war movement, but I can assure you that, in fact, Freedom Road has been part of the anti-war movement for many decades.
September 24th at 7 in the morning, the FBI also showed up at my house. My daughter, at that point, slept till 7 or 7:15 or 7:30. I wish those days were still here. She's recently decided on Friday, she decided it was time to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I've tried explaining to her that is not acceptable, but unfortunately, if you're less than 2 years old, your clock goes off whenever it goes off, and then you're like, I'm awake. At that point, she was still asleep, and I was downstairs waiting for her, and all of a sudden this loud noise of like all these walkie-talkies was on my front porch and surrounding my house. and there were like 8 FBI agents and 1 Minneapolis police officer that came and knocked so loudly on my door, I think that I wondered how anyone in South Minneapolis didn't hear this noise. And they came in and presented me with a search warrant and said that they wanted evidence of material support for terrorism and would I help them find it in my house? Which my response was, nope. And they then proceeded to hold me basically hostage in my own home. I was not allowed to leave my living room. Well, they had free reign over my entire house. I was moving in 3 days, so actually most of my belongings were in boxes, and they proceeded to open every box that I had packed and look to see if the contents were what was actually labeled on the side of the box, and if it was dishes, then they left it alone. But as far as I could tell, anything that was labeled Meredith's office was definitely taken by the FBI. So when I got to my new house, I have this room that's called my office that really doesn't have anything to go in it. So it's sort of an interesting, like, you know, ode to an office. Like I have a desk and these empty filing cabinets. But, you know, I've been an activist since 1994, so I own a lot of activist stuff. And they pretty much took everything that was remotely activist related. When my daughter did eventually wake up at 7:15 in the morning, I had to ask the police officer who was in charge of watching me if I could go to my daughter's room. At that point, she was still in her crib, so she was sort of prisoned there herself, standing there with her arms up. And I had to go pick up Audrey and change Audrey and get her ready for the morning, all while under being supervised by this Minneapolis police officer. And even if you're 18 months old, you can figure out very quickly that this is not like any other day. Because Audrey's like, what's up with the person over there? Which she said in her own nonverbal communication way. She did not understand why there were all these people roaming around her house. She could tell very clearly that like I didn't like these people and that they were not invited, and these are the only people she's ever met in her entire life who didn't make googly faces at her, and she's very cute. So she's just like, these people are clearly evil because they don't think I'm cute. And so she did not like them. And she like did not smile at them. My daughter smiles at pretty much everyone. And so she was like, this is very strange. And she refused to eat her breakfast. And she has this ginormous belly, and you don't get that belly by refusing to eat breakfast. But she was like, I don't want to eat. These people are weird. I don't understand what's going on in my house. It took the FBI a while before they decided they had to take my phone from me. So I also made a lot of phone calls. No one would answer their phones. Oh, because they were all being raided by the FBI. I was able to call my partner, who was able to get to our house within like a half an hour. And so I was able to get my daughter out of the house by 7:45, which is what I wanted. I didn't want Audrey to be there in that situation. And so we were able to get her out. But it was obviously incredibly terrifying being the parent of a small child and having these people with, you know, guns and, you know, authority issues, like walking all over your house, stealing all your stuff. But it was incredibly terrifying. Eventually, after they'd been searching my house for 4 or 5 hours, and a lawyer showed up at my house and asked the FBI agent specifically, has she been subpoenaed as well? Because he'd already